Hey guys, it's Chef Bear again coming at you from my kitchen. Actually, today it's Chef Bear's. I have my friend Tony, who's a baker extraordinaire. You hear me make the joke, he's not just certifiable, he's a certifiable baker. And today we're going to walk you through something that we've been working on for a couple weeks, about a month now. We've been trying to perfect easy, almost no need refrigerator bread. And I think we've perfected the process. We want to walk you through that. Today we're going to be making a brioche, which is a super yummy, semi-sweet eggy yolk bread. And I'm going to let Tony take the ball and run with this. I'm going to be over here, and we're just going to be having fun talking about bread and how to bake it.
Hello, folks. So, we first are going to talk about the ingredients and how it's special to get your mise en place ready. So everything is ready. What I have here is a cup and a half of water, and I have a cup of
Clover honey.
Then we're going to make this in our trial runs. We noticed that it wasn't as sweet, and we want ours a little bit sweeter. So we're going to add a half a cup of brown sugar, and then I put the yeast that's also in here, dry active yeast.
So 2 tablespoons?
2 tablespoons of dry active yeast. And then I've got eggs, which is that's what a brioche is kind of eggy, bready, buttery bread. So there's 8 eggs here and 3 sticks of unsalted butter. I like using unsalted butter in baking because then you can control how much salt is in your bread. And then we have our flour. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to start with all the liquids. And I'm going to put the water, eggs, and the butter.
And for you guys who are wondering what 2 tablespoons of dry active yeast is, that's 2 packets.
Yes, 2 packets. We buy ours are in bulk, which you can easily do that online. Also buy a big thing. So we're gonna lock the lid here, and then we're gonna just stir. So we want to incorporate all those ingredients in there. So then I'm gonna get my flour ready. So I got 7.5 cups of flour and 1.5 tablespoons of salt. And then we're just going to add that slowly to our flour, or our liquid measurements here.
So as we're adding the flour, Tony, can we talk about the importance of making sure you measure out the ingredients?
Yes.
That, this is not savory. This is baking where the measurements are critical.
Right. Baking is a science. I mean, that's the way I was always taught. So you're creating a science lab is what I did in my kitchen when I was growing up. It was this specific measurements, because you use those measurements because you knew you're going to get the proper consistency, the texture, and flavor of what you're baking.
Here, I'm going to set the timer because we want to have an 8-minute lead.
So I just slowly add the flour as it's mixing the flour, so you're not making a big huge mess with the mixture, and then as it's incorporating. So the reason why we want to do 8 minutes here is we want to create those gluten strands, the proteins that make how bread rises. So what happens is the yeast is inside the dough and the flour, and then you got this, as it's mixing, it's making this little thing. So then you got these little pockets, and then as the yeast rises, that's how it is. And that's what we want to create with the gluten in the flour.
Because that's been one of the main takeaways we've noticed, is that when I make the bread, it tastes good, but it's not as puffy or poofy as we want. And so we're now experimenting by actually setting a timer to force ourselves to knead it for the right amount of time instead of being impatient like I am. Because literally, that's the hardest thing about making bread. It's measuring the ingredients, it's following a process, and it's just giving it the time it needs.
So then I'm going to just, as I see it's incorporated, the flour is not as dry, I'll be able to bring the speed up on our mixer. So you can do this by hand. It's just a lot of work, and it gets kind of messy on your fingers. Every year I like to make a batch of dough by hand and not use my mixer, because then I get that feeling of what the dough should feel like. So, but that's just a lot of work. So use your KitchenAid mixer. Makes things easier. There are doughs where you can do in your food processor, and you just feel free to do that. So this is going to be a very sticky dough, because there's a lot of liquid in there also. But you got to remember, there's one thing about flour is there's a different absorption rate. So it will thicken up as we put this in the refrigerator. But what we're doing is we're creating those gluten strands right now. And then I'm going to bring it up to, I wouldn't go any more than the speed of 4 here. Well, that's a little too much. Speed of 2. And let that go for 8 minutes. And
so we're gonna kick off the timer. We'll be back with you guys in about 6 minutes, and then we'll show you how we're gonna do the final prep and get this ready to go into our magical mystical bucket that we actually store our bread in before we bake it off. And then we'll be coming back with you this Saturday, which will be a second part of this video, and we're going to show you how we're going to have 2 applications for this bunch of bread. It's going to be something you're not going to want to miss, guys. We'll see you in about 5 minutes. Hey guys, so we're back. It's been about 8 minutes. The timer just went off. So we're about ready to take the bread out of the mixer and transfer it into our bucket. That's why we call this bread bucket bread. We just came up with that name on the fly, so I like it. So I'll let Tony walk through again how we're going to deal with this. Now, if you guys are following along and making this recipe on your own, the brioche is super sticky. It's gonna get messy, but if it's messy, you're doing it right.
Correct. So after it's been mixing and we've developed that gluten, you're going to be able to take it out. So if I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it is very gooey and stuff. So I just got a little bowl of flour just to get my hands. So I don't want it to stick to my hands too much. And I'm just going to try to get it off the hook as much. And then I'm going to take this off. So if you can see, it doesn't look like a normal dough, and that is fine. After 24 hours, you're going to see this become more of what you would think a dough would look like. So we're just going to try to get this out of here, and there's a lot of butter, so it just oozes out of there, and not too much left in there. And that is pretty much it. You just kind of punch it down a little bit so you get those air pockets underneath, and that is it.
So the remainder of so what we're going to do is after you mix it for 8 minutes and you transfer it to the bucket or to your big bowl that you can lightly cover, you're going to let it sit in a warm place, room temperature, for at least an hour, if not 2 hours. Punch it down. Take out your aggression. Punch it down. Lightly cover it. Don't cover it tightly. Just cover it and put it in the refrigerator. You're going to want to let it rest at least for 24 hours. This is a point where patience is key. I've tried to make bread faster than that 24-hour bake-a-loaf, and I got to tell you guys, it just doesn't work as well. If you give it that extra time, you're going to end up with a better product. So we're going to have a second part of this video. We're going to film it this Saturday. So 3 days from now, we're going to let this bread rest and rise and become ooey and gooey and delicious. So join us in the next video where we're actually going to be making brioche bread pudding and also brioche hamburger buns for a recipe that we're going to be testing that day. I know you guys are going to love it. We'll see you in a couple days. Thanks so much. Hey guys, we're back with you in the kitchen. So we made the bread dough on Thursday. Today's Saturday. I've already baked off a batch of the brioche and cubed it up for a dessert recipe we're making later today. My grandma's bread pudding. DM me and I'll get you the recipe for that. I know you guys are gonna love it. But Tony's gonna talk about one of the other things we're using the bread dough for. So I'm gonna let him go on.
So first of all, we set the oven on the lowest temp. Turned it on. We just turned it off so the oven is a little warm in there. we're going to use this as a home makeshift proofer to help the dough rise and get the size that we want. Then I divided this the dough up to what we had was 12. So and it's about 3-4 ounces. Again, just eyeball it, or if you're really into exact sizes for each one, go ahead and weigh it. You're going to get even a dough. But
So Tony,
I'm pretty good at dividing.
Let's tell them what we're making.
Oh, we're making Brioche hamburger bun for our sloppy joes today. So, which we'll be making shortly after this. You're just gonna take the ball, kind of dig that. Make sure your hands are floured because it is a sticky dough, and then I kind of do a little roll in the hand, and there you go. You have a dough. I'm putting 12 on the tray here, and we're gonna cover it, and then
let it proof in the slightly warm oven.
So probably about an hour, maybe an hour and 15. We'll let you know how long it took for this dough. So when we made the dough on Thursday, so normally you can do a refrigerator dough and you can get like tops probably about 14 days on a regular dough. This dough being with all the eggs in it, I would not go more past than 5 days. I mean, we would say 4 or 5, but 5 is the max I would want to do with a dough like this, being with all those eggs and
just it's too risky to let it sit in there. Otherwise, you just don't want to get sick.
Right. So I'm gonna do a little quick spray on this so they don't dry out too much, and then we're gonna take a clean kitchen cloth and just cover it so they don't dry too much out. And then I would just leave the door open just slightly, so at the last spot, so because you don't want it too hot also in there. And then again, we'll be back with baking these in about an hour while we're making the sloppy joe mix. So.
All right, so we'll come back at you guys in about 90 minutes. You're gonna notice that the kitchen's gonna look different. It's not a time warp. We're just cooking multiple things at one time. Again, we're leaning in on the orange print. You know, we're being efficient in the kitchen. So while we're making bread, we're going to be cooking everything else. So we'll see you guys back on this Bread 101 in about 90 minutes. All right, guys, we're back. The rolls, the hamburger buns have proved beautifully for about an hour and a half. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bake them in a 350 oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. Your nose is going to be your perfect tester there. When they smell done, they're going to be done. Now, this is the point, if you wanted to, that you could apply an egg wash for they're nice and shiny and golden brown. Apply seasonings carefully. Onion, pepper, poppy seeds, sesame seeds, We're not going to do any of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these, we're going to get them into the blazing hot oven. We're going to set a timer for 15 minutes. And when they come out, we're going to let them cool for 5-10 minutes. Then we're going to slice them in half. And we're going to be using them in our video that we're going to be filming later this afternoon for Sloppy Joes. So if you want to see them in action, watch that video. All right, guys, it's been a blast. And we look forward to doing more 101 videos with you. But let us know. Send me a message. Send me a mail. What do you want to see next? What do you want to deep dive, cooking related, what do you want to learn about? All right, guys, it's been a blast. I'll see you next time.